And I think that it's not necessarily the teams or the players. It's just kind of this basketball culture that we've created. We've become this monster, with AAU and going down to the lower levels, people only able to play one sport instead of four like we used to. And I think that that's kind of part of it. And I think the other part of it is too, people are getting held out with hangnails. That's just the way I look at it. I think that there's no reason that we should have so many players injured in today's game when this league survived for years without this.
They rely on him too much, I think. And this knee injury, we need to keep an eye on this because this didn't happen in practice, didn't happen in a game. What happened? It was a cumulative thing. Yeah. JB Bickerstaff acknowledged It was a wear and tear injury.
Here's the other thing, John. This has happened twice this season. I've gotten to the Cavs games. We get there early, the media. Well, I'm casually walking through the arena and a security guard stops me, which never used to happen. And he's like, hey, wait. They're having a private practice, so you can't come through this way.
Sam, they did that 2 nights ago against Boston.
I didn't say anything. I was just like, oh, okay. But inside, I'm thinking, practice? You've got a game in 2 hours. Not to sound like Allen Iverson. Maybe Larry Bird would do a couple of jogging laps around the arena or something. But they'd come out and go through the layup line. That was their pregame warm-up. And this isn't obviously just limited to the Cavs. This is the entire NBA. He's like, why are these guys going through full body workouts before games? He said, some of these guys need showers before the game. When Michael Jordan was 40 and he's playing with the Wizards, he played all 82 games that season. You're used to playing point guard on the podcast, and I'm just the guy who hogs the ball. And now I'm kind of the point guard, but I'm a very clunky point guard. I'm learning. It's like I just got drafted into the NBA, and I'm trying to figure out how to run the point while professional broadcasters.
You're getting the job done, though. It's looking good. It's slick.
It's not. I'm like Mike Conley, I think. Like, nobody's going to pay any attention to him, but he's getting the job done. He's doing okay.
You know who I would compare you to? I would say you're the Terrell Brandon right now.
Terrell Brandon. I was going to say Darnell Valentine for the old school Cavs fans.
How about that?
If you remember Darnell Valentine.
I do.
So anyway, as far as today's Cavs, very quickly, I mean, we don't really have to be quick, but I'd rather get back to more exciting things.
Things aren't exciting right now. It's funny. You were talking in the intro of the show. It's been like this,
Yeah. And the thing that I've noticed, if you, like last night, I wrote obviously after the game, and I thought, I feel like I'm writing about a different team than I was a month ago. Now, granted, there's injuries, and that's part of it. But this team without Mitchell, to me, is totally different than it is without anybody else. So they could be missing Garland. They could be missing Mobley. They could be missing Allen or Max Strus or Karis LeVert. Go on down the line, Isaac Okoro. But if they're missing Mitchell, they're a totally different team. It's almost like the old Cavs teams if they were missing LeBron. It's just, he is that much a face of this organization now. Whereas before, when they first got him, I think we all kind of thought it would be Mitchell and Garland together. Mm-hmm. That's not been the case. Mitchell has been the man, and when he doesn't play, they're a totally different team. And I'm not just talking about success, but just the style that they play.
The Cavs record without Donovan Mitchell this year,
it's close. It's close. Around 500.
Right. And they rely on him too much, I think. And this knee injury, we need to keep an eye on this because this didn't happen in practice, didn't happen in a game. What happened? It was a cumulative thing. Yeah. JB Bickerstaff acknowledged It was a wear and tear injury. His minutes are, skyrocketing. It's, career year minutes. He's not getting the support. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley haven't had that second best year that we were expecting them to have. Mitchell's carrying the load. Like you mentioned, it's like a LeBron, I don't want to say 2.0 because it happened again. It's LeBron 3.0. And they need to watch him going into the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that double overtime loss to the Bulls, that I think he played like 44 minutes. Here's the other thing, John. When I first started covering the NBA, that's changed in say 2007 was really, that was my first year too, when they went to the finals as a full-time writer. Covering the Cavs was the year they went to the finals with LeBron and got swept by San Antonio. Now they're working out, and this is obviously just speculation and a theory on my part, but they're going through first of all, a couple weeks ago, this has happened twice this season. I've gotten to the Cavs games. We get there early. We get their game tips off at 7. We get up there about 4:30, the media. Well, I'm casually walking through the arena, and a security guard stops me, which never used to happen. And he's like, hey, wait, they're having a private practice, so you can't come through this way.
Sam, they did that. They did that 2 nights ago against Boston.
Yeah, and I said, I didn't say anything. I was just like, oh, okay. But inside, I'm thinking, practice? You've got a game in 2 hours. Not to sound like Allen Iverson, but they have a game in 2 hours, and they're going through a practice before the game. And then a couple of guys, like old timers who former NBA players have told me, have said, why are and this isn't obviously just limited to the Cavs. This is the entire NBA. He's like, why are these guys going through full body workouts before games? He said some of these. One of the a Cavs legend once told me, and he didn't tell me. He told me in private, so I'm not going to name him. But he's like, some of these guys need showers before the game because they're working out so hard before the game. And by working out, it means putting up a ton of shots, going in the weight room, working up a big sweat, and then they got to go take a shower before they put on their actual uniform half the time. And it's just, to me, that's like, you are putting so much more stress. And when I first started covering the NBA, and when I first started following it, they came out, went up through the layup line. Now, like maybe Larry Bird would do a couple of jogging laps around the arena or something, but they'd come out and go through the layup line. That was their pregame warm-up. Now you're having practices before games, which I know it's not a daunting practice, but at the same time, they're out there, they're doing this stuff that, to me, it's just like, you're wearing the body down. I don't care how young you are and how much, because I mean, on top of this, they've got regular practice that they go to shoot around. We've seen them, John, we're allowed in there after practice. They're still putting up shots and going through drills and all that stuff on their own. And to me, it's just like, if you want to ask me why guys used to play 82 games, like Michael Jordan only, he had that 1 year where he blew out his foot or whatever, his Achilles or something like that. I think it was a broken foot. And then he came back too soon. He came back, he told the Bulls, I'm going to play, and they were upset about it. And then he scored 63 against the Celtics in the playoffs. But other than that, you look at like Michael Jordan, for instance, he played almost 82 games every year. There was a couple of games where he only played 80. When Michael Jordan was 40 and he's playing with the Wizards, he played all 82 games that season, and he played pretty well. So I think that, there's something to these guys just maybe being over-practiced, overworked by the teams. They put their own work in too. I don't know, because the NBA has lost part of its luster a little bit because people are tired of going to games and the stars don't play.
Yeah, load management is the worst thing that's ever happened.
Load management, even real injuries are frustrating because it's like, why aren't now all of a sudden these NBA teams have like 7 people working in the medical, the medical personnel, and it's like, why are there so many injuries when we have more medical personnel and more trainers? JB Bickerstaff said that. He said the joke around here is the more medical people we hire, the more injuries there are, and
the trainer has a trainer, and the trainer has a doctor, and the doctor has a doctor, and the doctor has a nutritionist, and the nutritionist has whatever. It's funny. Look back at the old Cavs. How many times when you watch old videos, and any of our younger viewers need to do this. Go on YouTube and like Google like 1991 or 93 Cavs, early 90s, and you'll see on the bench, you'll see like Lenny Wilkins, Brian Winters, the assistant coach, and a couple other assistants. I think maybe Ron Rothstein was one of them. Sidney Lowe was he was an assistant then.
3 assistants at most.
3
assistants at most. Usually 2, but sometimes 3.
And then, Sam, the rosters were smaller back then too. I think the roster was maybe 12 or 13.
It was 12 guys. That was
12 guys. So you had 7 players on the bench, and then you had 1 trainer, and that trainer was the legendary Gary Briggs.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Sam just mentioned moments ago that we were on the phone one night till 3 a.m. Remember we were talking about Cavs, and I'm like, whatever happened to Gary Briggs? Is he still alive? And we looked him up. He retired a few years ago. He was a trainer for the Utah Jazz forever, and we found his LinkedIn page. I'm like, man, he still looks like the same Gary Briggs. Now he's got a goatee. Anyways,
he lives in Salt Lake City.
Yes. Loves to fish and do all outdoor stuff. Anyway, but you saw 1 coach or 1 trainer. Now that was it. Now one guy falls and hurts himself. It's a huddle of guys. It's like you have a finger.
No, I know.
Doctor, you have a nose.
I think it's a combination of things. I really do. I think it's a combination of overworked in terms of their practice situation And I think that it's not necessarily the teams or the players. It's just kind of this basketball culture that we've created. We've become this monster, with AAU and going down to the lower levels, people only able to play one sport instead of four like we used to. And I think that that's kind of part of it. And I think the other part of it is too, people are getting held out with hangnails. That's just the way I look at it. I think that there's no reason that we should have so many players injured in today's game when this league survived for years without this. And now, what is going on? I think it's a combination of things. And I also think guys are held out too much. And I don't think it's on the players. I think that's on the teams. I think the teams are like, well, we better rest this or, whatever. But I just think it's, to me, you play in the games. If you got to sit out practices, if you got to play less minutes, because this is a business, the product is a business, and you want your best product out there for when people are paying for it. Nobody cares what happens at practice because nobody watches and nobody's paying that. Nobody cares what happens at shoot around. I know, like some coaches like Ty Lue, he hates the morning shoot around, hates it, wishes the league would do away with it. And I mentioned that to the league, and the league told me, in the league office, they're like, well, we don't force anybody to do that. And I'm like, well, then it's just going to take one or two coaches to do away with it. So obviously the Cavs have all kinds of injury issues and just have not been the same team. So anyway, John, are you glad that you came on now that I've talked the entire time?
No, I could be here all day. It's great. One thing on the injury front that I think that people don't necessarily realize too is that when you see these guys, I mean, I think the league in general has become soft. Not that these players are soft in terms of
yeah,
it's a league-wide issue, and some of these players are they're all legit hurt. A lot of them are, except when you have some that are doing load management. Yeah. And sometimes it's not all the players. Sometimes it's like you say, it's the front office pulling these guys to do this.
Medical personnel telling the coaches these guys need to sit. Yeah.
And I can tell you, and you know this too. There are players in the league that don't like that. That can't stand it.
No,
because they think it makes them look bad. But one thing is for sure, the Cavs situation currently, these are legit injuries, and it's a concern. They need to get healthy. I think you and I were talking about this one day with that run in January and February. I said, I have a concern with this run is that they're peaking too early because you're peaking in the part of the schedule.
Middle of the year before the All-Star break.
I mean, that's good that you're beating up on bad teams. You're building up, your good teams take care of bad teams. And the Cavs did that in a big way. And so they padded their record and padded their standings a little bit. Now you're getting hurt. Now, there's one silver lining to this. Mobley and Garland got hurt earlier in the year before Christmas. And everyone spelled that was going to spell doom and gloom, and it didn't. Right. Now we have injuries to these guys, and we're about 6 weeks away from the playoffs. So if you're going to get hurt, you want to kind of get hurt now. That way you can rest up. The problem with that, Sam, is the schedule, even though if you go on a lot of different websites, they can tell you that, the Cavs have one of the easiest remaining schedules. They say that because if you look at what they have, there's a lot of bad teams in there, and it's weighted bad, meaning like you're playing the Hornets twice. You're going to play the Grizzlies, and you're going to play the Rockets, and you're going to play the Nets. But I mean, coming up here, you got the Timberwolves tomorrow. You're going to play Phoenix twice before the end of the year. You're going to play the Lakers again. And the Lakers aren't great either, but you got LeBron.
Well, right. Yeah.
Indiana's always going to be tough. Philly and Denver. I mean, not to mention Miami too. So the schedule isn't doing them any favors, especially when you see two little mini road trips here coming up. So they got to just kind of slide by because the other problem that no one's talking about, the Milwaukee Bucks are playing a lot better of late. Yeah. They've won 7 of 10. Their win streak just got snapped the other day, and they climbed right up on the Cavs' heels. And currently, as we talking here on Thursday, are leading up, have half a game up on them for that second spot.
And the nice thing for the Cavs, that's kind of the thing that it's like, Milwaukee. I suspect Milwaukee's going to finish second, but the Cavs seem to have a pretty good hold right now on third because they're 4 games up over Orlando and the Knicks.
3.5. 3.5 on the Magic, 4 on the Knicks.
Okay, so I mean, to me, when you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, it doesn't really matter to me if you finish second or seventh, because if you're second, you're probably going to have to play the Miami Heat. If you're second or sixth, second or third. And if you're third, you're probably going to have to play, you may end up playing Philly with Joel Embiid back in the first round. So, or Miami. I mean, it's just
Indiana.
It's not going to be easy for the Cavs.
Or
Indiana's
Indiana
a bad matchup for the Cavs. Yeah. I mean, all of those teams are certainly capable of beating the Cavs, and the Cavs are capable of beating them too. So, but I mean, there's a reason the race is so tight, right? Because everybody's pretty close to even, and anything can happen. But I just think the Cavs need to play better to not necessarily win, but they gotta play better in the course of games, and they haven't done that without Mitchell. And frankly, John, we'll talk about this later on the podcast, but as well without Donovan playing point, Darius Garland point. It's not a shot at Garland. Would you agree that they've done a little bit better?
You cut out a little bit there, but I think I kind of get the gist of what you're.
Hey, John, can you hear me okay now? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, you cut out a little bit there, but I think you're talking about Garland. I actually have a point on Garland. You need Darius now to kind of take the role here. You need him to take the reins. What we had seen in his rookie year. He's taking a step back with Donovan, and he's had a rough start this year. The injury was a big problem for him. I mean, he's open. He talked about it. He's upset with himself in a way. He's frustrated. I thought it was kind of cute to hear him say last weekend after, I forget which game it was over the weekend. I remember I was watching it at Fox 8, and then we did a recap of it. And I think it was after either the Pistons or it was after the Pistons win. Yes, it was, because he referenced the Bulls game because he played well against Chicago. He had like 23 points that night or something. And then the Pistons, he had 29, hit 6 threes. So now it's coming back to me. The question was asked, I think Serena Winters asked him on the court, what's changed? Why are you having this recent surge in points and just production with Donovan out? And his response was, my grandma's home. She's staying with me. And, she's giving me that extra oomph, the extra love and passion. And, that grandma's cooking, fueling him in a way. And, he's relaxed and he's kind of getting to rhythm. And so you saw that for the most part. And I thought that was neat. He's really close with his family, really close with his grandmother, obviously. And you saw that even though that double overtime loss against Chicago, not his fault, obviously. And then you saw it again against Detroit. The Knicks game was just tough. It was just a bad matchup. A lot of things went wrong. And Darius, this Cavs team is, in my opinion, Sam, now as we look at this, you need Darius Garland to be that consistent number 2. And we've talked about on the podcast extensively the last 2 years, and injuries have not helped him. And he just has not been that guy. And when will he be that guy? Will he be that guy? Now's a good time to see it. We need to see it heading into the playoffs with Donovan out at least the next 2 games. He'll be reevaluated this weekend. But you need to see a little bit more out of Darius Garland, and he'll be the first to tell you that too. You need more consistency out of him because you're not getting that right now.
Right. And that's that to me is really when you talk about success or kind of clunkiness, it starts with the guys who have the ball in their hands. And, I think Cavs fans everywhere are rooting for Darius. He's a good guy and he's still a productive player. He's just, I think that he needs, he as you said, he will tell you he needs to be better, and he's still doing pretty well statistically. It's just a matter of how is the offense running when the ball's in your hands. But anyway, John, thanks so much for joining me today. I know that you'll be back at some point. I hope
I will be back. Thank you for having me. We had a good time going down memory lane.
After this, we'll have to do that again. But I guess I will talk to you in about 3 or 4 hours for the podcast.
Yeah,
we'll be recording a Cavs on the Break podcast today, and tonight. And John will go back to playing point guard, and they'll move me back to ball hog And that's the roles that we're comfortable with. I like to get the ball, dominate the ball, and you know how it goes.
Hey,
You've been podcasting with me long enough.
You know, that Terrell Brandon comp was actually that's a good compliment because he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated that '97 season and was labeled the best point guard in the NBA.
Yeah. Well, now the cover of Sports Illustrated's AI generated, right?
Right. Yes. Well, we're going to be recording another podcast tonight. It'll be released tomorrow morning. I wouldn't be doing my job, Sam, if I couldn't plug it real quick, because I know Chase Smith, our other co-host, would be like, "Got to plug the podcast." We record it once a week, Sam, Chase, and I, and we just recap what's going on with Cavs. And everything NBA. I'll throw some random trivia stuff out there. Sam's going to give us all the lowdown on rumors. We got a lot of good reminiscing of old Cavs stuff, good conversation. But most importantly, to get the latest on that, make sure you go and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and follow us on Twitter if you want. And we'll be giving you out some new content. New episode will be recorded tonight and will drop tomorrow, Friday morning.
Well, the difference between the podcast and this show is, sadly, on the podcast, you don't get to see our beautiful faces.
That's true. But you can listen to us while you drive or you know, cutting the grass once
you can do that.
Warmer out.
You could do that with this show. You could take 330 to go anywhere. Hey, you know what? I told Chase that I was trying to trademark the slogan, "Let's 330 to go." I've got to clear it with the people who run 330 to go, but
yeah, you could.
I'm on my way.
And they throw merch on it too.
With his trademarking. Huh?
Then you get some merch on it. Like, your slogan on a shot glass or on a pint glass or, exactly. A polo or something.
Tattoo. I was thinking a tattoo. Maybe one on my neck. Yeah.
I was thinking more like right here on your cheek or something.
Yeah, that might be nice too.
I don't think Katie would let you back in the house.
No, nobody. Yeah, right.